Blake reveals he thinks Katie and Greg's dramatic breakup took away from his love story with Katie. Hey guys, welcome back to another Shared News from Home. We have all the details on everything Blake had to say, but before we get into it, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, and today I am joined by the wonderful Zachary Reality and Morgan Wright. You guys, we have been talking all things Blake and Katie for such a long time now. Let's just get into it. Obviously, the end of Katie's season was an absolute roller coaster between the explosive breakup with Greg to Blake's last minute proposal nerves. It was really a nail biter if Katie was going to get a happy ending at the end of the day. The drama with Greg did continue at After the Final Rose, which led some fans to question if Katie was truly over Greg and ready for an engagement. Blake just revealed his thoughts on the situation, telling Insider, quote, "I do think that the whole Greg thing did take away from the love story. Unfortunately, it sucks that it was such a focal point for someone who didn't actually end up with her." He also added his thoughts on how the season was edited, saying, quote, "It just feels like I came in hot and then I ended hot, but it didn't show a ton of relationship in the middle there." You guys, this is really interesting, and I think it's something that we've all been hoping to get a little more insight on Blake's opinion on for some time now. Zachary, what are your thoughts on what he had to say here?
I mean, this is kind of interesting, as you just mentioned. I mean, the Greg and Katie breakup was something that we all were so intrigued by, and I think we were intrigued by it because not only was it a super dramatic breakup, but Greg was there since day one. His storyline, his connection with Katie was playing out since the first episode. So I think because Blake came in later into the season, a lot of fans were more invested in the Greg and Katie love story up until the bitter end. And I think a lot of fans were devastated when Greg and Katie broke up because Greg was the fan favorite. I don't think Blake was. And I think that's kind of why we were focusing more on the Katie and Greg breakup, as well as who doesn't love a good train wreck. I think we all wanted to see that. I would have loved to see more of Katie and Blake's love story, but I think they have the opportunity to do that with social media and with their future living together. So I think it'll all be okay. Morgan, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I do think that the franchise has the ability to edit anybody into a fan favorite, right? I mean, just look at how many contestants do a 360 from their season into Bachelor in Paradise. It's like, Zach, I loved Victoria Larson on
Uh-huh.
this week Bachelor in Paradise. I would have never said that during Matt James season. So I feel like they really truly can edit anybody and kind of manipulate them a little bit like puppet masters. It is what it is. It's reality TV. But I
Yeah.
do agree with Blake in the fact that everyone was talking about Greg and Katie, not Blake and Katie. And I feel like coming off an engagement and a time that's supposed to be super exciting to have everybody focused on who she broke up with as opposed to who she got engaged to as the fiance, I would feel a little slighted too. But it's like you said, they know the way to edit the show. They know that Greg was there from the beginning. They know how it ended with them. They know there was all this drama in between. So, how are they going to make a good reality show? They're going to paint this picture.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you both because at the end of the day, we all knew it was going to come down to Blake and Greg, right? Like it wasn't like Blake
Mhm.
came out of nowhere, but it feels like the drama with Greg and Katie was going to be the more dramatic, more talked about moment at the end than their love story. So it seems like they did potentially cut out some fun moments between Blake and Katie to keep us invested with Greg until the bitter end. But Blake did have a message for people who are still skeptical of their relationship today. He said, quote, "Unfortunately, it's just kind of what it is for people who think it should have been Greg. I guess you gotta wait and see, but it's not about that, right? Who cares about the viewers? We know what we have, and that's kind of what we're riding on, especially coming out of this and finally being able to live a real life now." Now, you guys, we have talked about this. What we've seen from them in interviews, what we've seen from them on social media, they do seem super happy, but it's kind of a bold statement. Like, who cares about the viewers? You just met on a reality television show where people invested in your journey week after week. Morgan, how are you feeling about them as a couple? And what are your thoughts on this mindset he has?
Yeah, I mean, I like them as a couple. I think it's very clear that they love each other. They're very compatible. They're like the same person, but one's a male and one's a female. So, I mean, it's a match made in heaven, honestly. And I understand what Blake is trying to say. For someone who's been on 3 times or with 3 different bachelorettes to say who cares about the viewers, I think he probably should have said who cares about the trolls, because there are those people online who just constantly hate and bash and have nothing nice to say. But there are viewers that rooted for him and Katie. So maybe a slip of the tongue. We've all done it. I mean, it's very easy to do that in interviews. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt with that one.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as you there, Morgan. Zachary, how do you feel? What are your thoughts? Are they going to make it? Do you think that his ability to kind of disconnect from what people out there are saying about them might actually be good for them in the long run?
I think that's really what he had going for him because he had a lot of balls, even going on to Katie's season to begin with, because he was from another season, because he does have a past with 2 other bachelorettes, because he came halfway through the season. So, of course, he needs to not care about what other people think. But at the same time, he has to remember the fans, the viewers, the supporters. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks as long as him and Katie are happy. So, I'm happy that they are together. I'm sure we're going to get more into it, but we have to talk about the fact that they are living in different countries. And I feel like that is going to be the hardest obstacle for them to overcome. So when you ask, do I think if they're going to make it or not? If they can figure out this visa situation, because Katie put up an Instagram story today, then yes, they are going to make it. But if they can't figure that out, I'm kind of worried for them, to be realistic, because it's not easy to date someone in another country.
They certainly have some more obstacles to overcome, but they're different, right? Now they're rooted in reality, the real world, 2 different countries. It's very, I guess, a different energy than the kind of pressure you're under when it's a camera that's in your face. So they've already been able to navigate that type of pressure. The question is, how can they handle the real world pressure that they're facing now? And obviously, we're all hopeful that they continue to be happy. One of the strategies that Katie kind of put into place to keep them strong up until this point is, while her season was airing, she did tell Blake everything that happened with Greg before the episodes aired. She didn't leave any surprises for him. He said she was very upfront about the situation and prepared me for anything that she was going to say and really explained everything to me, so I was never surprised by anything. It feels like, to me, Katie was very strategic, and knowing what went on in New Mexico, knowing that some of it could air, some of it might not air, and it feels like she took steps to protect her relationship with Blake while they had to kind of sit back and watch it all unfold on their TV screens. What are your thoughts on this approach, Zachary? It seems like it's working pretty well for them, but do you think it was the right call?
I think it really helped in her favor, or in their favor, that there was no fantasy suites with multiple people. We've seen this a lot in the past, most notably Andy Dorfman, where sometimes you want to, get a little frisky in the fantasy suite with your top 2 or with your top 3, and that actually causes more problems for the winner and the relationship later down the road. So I think Katie had that in her favor. But I also think that openness and honesty is the best policy, especially when things are going to air on TV. And Katie didn't know exactly what was going to air because, as Morgan mentioned, the show is highly edited. So I think it was better for her to just leave it all out there. If they're starting a proposal, an engagement, they need to be completely honest with each other. And if something possibly went on the TV screens that Blake didn't know about, I think he would be upset about it. So I think Katie did the right thing by telling him everything that went down. I mean, you can only prepare someone so much until it hits the television, and then it hits the internet and the Greg stans come out. It's definitely a very dramatic show.
It is. And you know what, Morgan, we have talked about this before, just in relationships in general. Communication is so important, right? And whether it's a TV relationship, a real life relationship, like, if you don't have communication there, you're screwed. And it really feels like if they were able to sit down and communicate all of the complexities of her having multiple relationships, then sit down and watch it together, To me, I mean, those are two people who at least have something figured out. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Katie doesn't sugarcoat anything, you know? So we
Mm-mm.
saw it when she was in the hot tub with Blake, you know? She said, you know, Greg and I had this blow up fight. I considered leaving. I just want you to know that that thought did cross my mind. So she's always been really open and honest. And I feel like that is definitely the best under any circumstances because it allows you to work through things together and it also builds trust in the relationship. I think it would be a really different story if Katie had, in my opinion, Katie didn't beg for Greg to stay. Katie didn't
Yeah.
say, you know, you are the one, please stay and finish this out with me. Like, she didn't do that. She pretty much did allow him to leave. And in my opinion, didn't really fight super hard to get him to stay. So I feel like Blake watching that back can probably see, you know, as Greg saw in that moment, Greg wasn't the one. He was never the one. Justin wasn't the one. So when you have that
Mhm.
confidence, you know, in yourself and in your relationship, it's like, okay, the other stuff was kind of just formalities. You know, she had to be the bachelorette, you know, something that Greg had such an issue with. So I feel like in the end, it really did all work out for the best.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that because Blake actually opened up about his mindset on these other relationships, on these other connections, and he said something very similar. He said, when it comes down to it, if Greg was her guy, she would have left with him, and she didn't. So it didn't really concern me as much as I think
Mhm.
it would for the average person. He also talked about, you guys, that it is his quote, ridiculous amount of confidence that helps him get through the season.
Mhm.
His mindset from day one was that he was number one. He was the number one guy. He said that to himself every day as soon as he got there. Morgan, you just touched on how much Greg struggled. It seems like Blake just has the right temperament for this process. Like he was built to withstand the chaos this show throws at you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, that or maybe there was some stuff going on behind the scenes that we didn't see. You know, in Greg's interview on Nick Vile's podcast, The Vile Files, he told us that, you know, he told Katie at the end of their second one-on-one date that he was falling in love with her, and she didn't say it back. That's something that we never saw, right? We never saw Greg tell Katie that he was falling in love with her that early in the season. Very well, there could have been conversations in private, you know, on a mic off moment where Katie kind of reassured Blake, like, you know, we're gonna be all right. Just let
Mhm.
me go through this. You know, you are gonna be the one I end up with. You never know. That very well could have happened and could have kept him in a good mindset.
Yeah, you're totally right. And Zachary, you touched on this earlier, jumping back to like where they are today. Obviously, they are in two different countries. They've made it very clear that they're going to just figure it out as they go. They kind of seem like they don't want to lock themselves down into any decision and as big as like where to live, what are next steps rushed. They're really just taking their
Mhm.
time with it and seeing what happens. But you said it makes you a little nervous. It makes me a little nervous too. Is this the right step or should they be like making some bolder moves and then if they don't work, reassessing? I guess every relationship's different, but what's your opinion?
I think if they are planning a future together, they're going to have to figure things out quickly. But I also feel like at the same time, they just got off of this crazy journey. They don't want to rush into any decisions. They don't necessarily know where they want to live and build roots. So I think it's important that they visit each other in their cities, in their countries to kind of figure out where fits best. Katie did mention that she spent
Mhm.
some time in Canada and now Blake is trying to come to the US. And I watched her Instagram story this morning. So I know she was saying that Blake is only allowed to come in for 60 days and then he has to leave. So it seems like it's a mess, especially with COVID. So I think that they're just going to have to play things 1 week, 1 month at a time. And then hopefully they can get together. And I also feel like with the whole Greg situation, at the end of the day, Blake was all in and he said that from the start. And Greg always had hesitation. So I think that's kind of why everything happened the way it was supposed to. And Morgan, we also have to say, Blake is the number one guy in the group, kind of like he mentioned. Do you know what I'm saying?
I
Little
do,
Vanderpump
Jax
Rules.
Taylor. And you guys, I do have to add my 2 cents in because I am in a cross-continental relationship. I know what
Yeah.
it's like to date somebody who does not live in America, and let me tell you, it is tough you have to be really mentally prepared for all the stuff that comes your way, especially with COVID. My boyfriend lives in England, and I know that it is a bit different between Canada and the United States. You can come on tourist visas where, like Katie said, you could be here for 60 to 90 days, yada, yada, yada. But if one time you stay longer than that 60 days, you might be banned and never be allowed back in the United States again.
Oh
Also with
gosh.
visas, they take years to process. I know in my situation, I would have to get married. We'd have to get married in the States. David would have to then go back to London, where it could take a year to 2 years for the marriage visa to process. And then he would be able to come and live here. So, yes, I do understand the day by day approach. But under these circumstances, you have to have some type of plan, or you are going to be spinning your wheels for a very, very, very long time.
This also brings up the conversation where it's like, why do these Canadians want to come on our USA Bachelor to begin with? Like, why don't they just go on the Canadian Bachelor? Because then they're kind of setting themselves up for a bigger challenge when there already is a big challenge going on this show and falling in love to begin with.
Listen, that is a question maybe Blake will give us an answer to one day. I'm definitely with you both. There are a lot of complications. And to your point, Morgan, it's not like they can do the thing that like normal couples do where you date and you spend time together and you sleep back and forth so many times that eventually you're like, we're going to move in. And then it can just happen, right? They don't get to have
Right.
that path. There are a lot of hoops they're going to have to jump through. So it is interesting. And I think that what I keep gathering from when they both talk about it is he is from Canada. She is from the United States. He has a home. She has a home. But where is going to feel like home for both of them? And considering they do have a lot of hoops to jump through, it might be a smart choice to bop around for a little while before you jump through those hoops, right? To actually be able to settle in somewhere. Listen, we're definitely rooting for them. I think it's going to be an interesting journey to say the least from here on out. That is everything we know from Blake as of right now. It's everything we have to share with you guys for today. We want to know your thoughts on what he had to say about Greg, and also, of course, this absolute headache of figuring out what their next steps are going to be. Be sure to let us know down in the comments. And if you are not already subscribed to our channel, make sure you do. Make sure you ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future Katie and Blake updates. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, joined by the wonderful Zachary Reality and Morgan Wright. If you guys want to come say hi, check out our socials. They are on the screen right now. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.
See you later.